I've seen a lot. Amid the celebrity allure of entrepreneurship, many exceptional entrepreneurs remain shadowed. Here, I team up with these hidden talents to unveil their challenges and successes. Dive in with me to unearth entrepreneurial gems, learn from our experiences, and get educated. Hey, Todd, how are you? I appreciate you being here so much. Thank you. I'm actually really looking forward to having a conversation today. Ladies and gentlemen, we have Todd Hartley with us, who is the CEO of Wirebuzz, which is a digital marketing agency. And I guess, Todd, correct me if I'm wrong on any of this stuff, but you have a slogan of binge-worthy buying experiences, creating binge-worthy buying experiences. But I would say, from reading your book, you're an expert in digital marketing, video marketing, and kind of sales optimization. I did find out that you're the special advisor to the President of the United States Cancer Panel, and you're on the board of the American Breast Surgeons for breast cancer. And you're also a speaker for Tony Robbins, not just a speaker, but a trainer of all of his companies, and a speaker for his business mastery programs. So, welcome.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here and just to pour into people and help them get their business to the next level. But as we both know, Dwayne, we have not only a business to help people with, but also help them get the right mindset and personal development so they can excel. Because once all those are in the right place, watch out, because revenue starts to grow.
And I'm so looking forward to this conversation for those reasons, because I think now more than any time is we see a lot of our listeners who are having trouble growing revenue. This post-COVID kind of world where things have, in some industries, some are still accelerating unbelievably well, but some are struggling. And I did want to say one thing. Like, I read your book. I thought it was fantastic, by the way. Like, it was really, really good. I took so many notes, and I don't often say this, but and there's not every book that I read, obviously, that I send out to our team and say, hey, this is a must read. But when I read your book, I was like, holy crap, this is a must read. Here were a couple things that I actually wrote them down. So I'm probably going to just read them here rather than going by memory. But a couple of things that blew me away that I wanted to make sure we got out today for the listener, because I had a sense, but I didn't realize that it was to this level. But 70 to 80% of business to business people in business to business transactions want a digital interaction, which was in your book, which kind of really blew me away. And where you really seem to be excel as an expert is this the video messages, which yields like an 85% more likely to buy scenario. I'm not going to drop many of these, but here was the other one out of a McKinsey study that you shared, which is, this really blew me away, is 70% of business to business will spend $50K remotely, but 27 will spend up to $500,000 on a remote interaction, which I thought was mind blowing. So I don't know if we can start there, or if that's where I'll let you go. But I just was, we can touch on those anytime in the conversation, but I was really blown away at some of those things.
Yeah, I think the data tells a really interesting story. The story is that buyers are becoming more and more comfortable buying from somebody through Zoom and from a remote distance. So it used to be in the old business world. Hi, Todd Hartley, damn glad to meet you, like handshake. And those things have changed, and partially because of COVID. And the other partial is just the technology came about at the same time, and we were able to bridge that gap. And most people, myself included, aren't going back to the office. Like, I had a gorgeous top floor penthouse Scottsdale agency office, and when COVID happened, I still had about 9 months left on my lease, and the team was like, yo, we kind of like working at home. And before I knew it, almost everybody I'm selling to is at home. So we're not walking in and meeting people. So how do we sell to people if it's remote or it's in person and get them convinced and converted at faster rates is where I just love to play. But the truth is, video plays a really big part inside of transferring knowledge. Because Dwayne, if I asked everybody that was listening right now to answer this question, which is, if your prospects know what you know about your solution and they believe what you believe about your solution, then buying from you should be an absolute no-brainer, right?
Yeah.
And right. So a big portion of this is, how do we teach? And how do we get people to clearly see what our impact's going to be on their business or on their life? And once we do that well, people buy from us like never before.
Right. There's two questions. Like, when did this kind of come to you? Like, because the two things that I see here is, one, okay, this is a really smart technology move from a video perspective. But then the other is, like, I mean, which is available to everybody. But the other piece is the innovative side of it, which is like, at what point did you, and I would love to cover the two sides of that coin, which is one is the innovation of your mindset as a business owner to go, I got to innovate, where some people are, early adopters, some are mid adopters and late adopters. But obviously you kind of went, hey, here's a loophole, or not a loophole. Here's an opening in the market. And I'm going to innovate or I'm going to die. And there's a lot of agencies out there, marketing agencies or sales optimization, companies that are not evolving. So I'd love to hear both sides of those. As one is, the whole, strategy side of it, but also from your perspective, what it took to, look outside yourself and innovate.
Okay, I love it. It's a great question. Brings me to a very dramatic time in my life. In the year 2000, I launched a website. And I was a talk show host in Phoenix on the #1 station. And I built a website before the station had a website, and quickly started trailblazing in content marketing and search engine optimization. There was no training available. It was all trial and trial, figure it out as you go. And within 2 years, I was generating 36 million visitors a year on 0 ad dollars, and a career was born. iHeartRadio took me off the radio, brought me out to LA. I helped run digital for 7 of the largest nationally syndicated talk shows broadcast out of Hollywood. And inside the iHeart data, keep in mind, iHeartRadio is all about audio. And this is like 2003 to 2007. And part of my job was to look in the data and report back to the head of the network on what type of content on our websites was getting the best results. But each week, it was the same data. Video was getting 10 times the results. And I'd have to be that jackass that would go to the boss and he'd say, well, okay, so what kind of data is working well? And I'm like, well, it's video. Video is getting 10 times the results. And he would say, yeah, but our audience loves audio. And I'd see over his shoulder, it said like iHeartRadio. I'm like, yeah, but they really friggin' love video. And that's the way the weekly meeting went, dude. And it was awkward. And then by 2007, I was like, the only thing that's keeping video from being a massive tool for business, because up until this point, 2007 was like the beginning of YouTube and its prominence. And then I started saying, well, what's keeping it from becoming impactful? And it was bandwidth. So bandwidth was still not available. For those that aren't old enough to remember, we used to have to sit around and wait for video to download. So quickly, once we got to a bandwidth point in 2010, I opened up my agency, Wirebuzz. And then how did I get to the point where I realized that video is a sales tool? Well, 11 months after I launched Wirebuzz, nobody was buying from me. And I knew what I was selling was valuable, but we had a disconnect between what I was saying and what they could perceive in their head. I was early to video marketing. We didn't have a name for it yet. Okay. So what did I do? I knew how to create videos and I had a camera. So in my sales process, after 11 months and running out of money, I said, screw it. I'm just going to create a little video for this prospect and the decision-making team. and I'm going to step off to the side and I'm going to put my PowerPoint or my keynote slide deck next to me, and I would teach them. And I would say like, hey, Dwayne, it's Todd. Thank you so much for the meeting earlier. And for the rest of your team, my name's Todd Hartley and blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to walk you through the proposal. Boom. People started buying from me at a freakish rate. We started picking up Fortune 500 companies left and right. And before I knew it, we were serving the Mayo Clinic and MD Anderson and Home Depot and AAA and 23andMe and like, you name it. It was like a NASCAR of logos we were picking up left and right. And then we were doing their marketing, and I was teaching their marketing teams, and we were laying out these paths to purchase that we call a journey page. And then I noticed that their sales were low. So I would jump over to the sales team and start training them how to create these videos. I was like a land and expand monster. And so I did that for a decade until COVID happened. And Tony Robbins, who was a client of ours at this time, asked me to train his sales teams, his internal for each of his different companies, how to use video and sell remotely. And then I did the training for Tony, and I did 105 businesses across, in his personal portfolio, and revenue went through the roof. And he was like, brother, you got to get out there and start teaching this to people outside of Fortune 500 companies. And so I've been doing that on stage for him. And, I get to go and do business mastery. I think I did, just a ton of events, and I love train. Tomorrow I'm on stage at Unleash the Power Within in Germany for him. And it's an incredible, as you know, honor to give back to Tony and to serve his audience.
It's it's an amazing story, and I'm just writing the kind of the timeline down on it. It's incredible. Congratulations. If I went back to the early days, what was it? I'd love to capture for the listeners, and actually selfishly for myself, that moment or where you kind of went, this is an innovation. This is something nobody else is doing. But what was the psychology of that? Because there's so many people see opportunities, but they don't jump on them. And I'm curious what yours was.
Yeah, I'm like a pioneer, right? And pioneers get arrows in their back. So right. I had a lot of people that weren't psychologically ready to leave the old world of selling to come into the new world. I had a lot of people that were comfortable. What I've really discovered is people who aren't ready for innovation will confuse comfort and efficiency. I'll give you an example. They will hide behind a fake wall of, we're doing this because it's efficient. What they're really telling you is they're comfortable. Mm-hmm. Let me give you an example. If I ask people, I'm like, how many of you are using email to communicate with your prospects? Everybody's like, oh, I am. And I'm like, well, how efficient is that? Well, it's great. I just write the email and I send it to them and blah, blah, blah. They have it right there. And I go, well, how efficient is it? What do you mean it's the most efficient thing that I do? How successful is it? It's a fake wall. Typically, you got to push on that wall a few times before it starts to crumble. How efficient is it? Because they go, well, it takes me seconds. No, this isn't about how long it takes you. How successful is it in converting that prospect on the other end? Well, what do you mean? This is how we do it, And what you really discover is salespeople spend 41% of their day, and business leaders, writing emails, but 80% of the time, nobody ever reads the email. And when you explain that to people and you realize that you could be using text messaging with your warm prospects and email simultaneously, and you'll get 5 times higher engagement with your prospects, because a text message from a warm relationship, not a cold, a text message from a salesperson to their prospect, 98% of text messages are opened within 5 minutes. That's a 5 times higher engagement compared to email. So what if we used both of them and we did it in a loving, altruistic way so it didn't feel spammy? And once I got to that point, salespeople were like, okay, I can see that, but I'm not comfortable communicating because it's myself. My limiting belief is Their cell phone is a personal space, not a business space. I'm like, great. That is a temporary window. Can we push past that? Can I teach you how to engage in a altruistic way for their best interest? And in doing so, you'll get more mind share. Would you be open to it? And a lot of people, surprisingly, aren't open to innovation until they see other people crushing it. The late adopters is the majority, right?
Yeah.
So as much as I'm thrilled that, I've been able to, last year, the people that we've trained, the company's closed over $6 billion in revenue using these strategies. I'm thrilled about it, but I'm also kind of pissed off because I want to help more people. And so I've got all these late adopters that are like dinosaurs that are late to the party. But as soon as they learn a new trick, they all of a sudden start having fun at work again. And not only does fun at work spill over into abundance in your pocketbook, but surprisingly, it also creates significantly more celebrations at home. And I love that.
I love it too. I mean, there's two questions that I have out of this just, brief conversation here, which is, one is, what would your definition of altruistic be for a salesperson? Because sometimes based on my experience, I see a lot of sales reps that I've had in the past or currently have, where they confuse the messaging of altruistic and what they want, and it's like sometimes you read an email or a message or whatever, and you go, "Oh my God, like that's so obvious! Like that was not for the favor of the client; it was for the favor of you to kind of try to close a sale." So that'd be the first question, and then I'll let you go on if you don't mind. Yeah,
I'm a big fan of altruistic persuasion, and let me unpack it. I'm not going to persuade you to do something because it's for my best interest. I'm going to persuade you because it's for your best interest, and there's a difference because I want to help you. I want to advocate for you. I want to help you achieve your Mount Everest. Where do you want to go? Let's go there. And if that is something that I can help you navigate, I'm going to guide and advise for your best interests. I'm not going to persuade you to manipulate you. I'm going to persuade you because when you tell me that you want to start celebrating more or you want to grow your business or you believe you can double it, I'm going to say, cool, here's how to do it based on all these companies that I'm working with. And all we have to do is follow this strategy and boom, altruistically, I'm going to get you to the top of that mountain. Right?
Yep.
And I mean, I see companies that are doubling or tripling their revenue I have one company that tripled their revenue in 4 months using this strategy. Okay. And it took them 2 years. They saw me speak at a big event. They cornered me. They were like, we want to hire you. Then it became, I'm not sure I'm comfortable on camera. And I'm like, oh, I can teach you that. I'll help you break that psychology. What is it? Is it, I don't like how I look because I can help you with that? Or I don't have anything smart to say. That's an easy one to overcome. Or I don't want to be judged. Like, will you love to be judged when you're doubling your revenue? You know what I mean? Like, you're going to love being judged then, yo. And so over 2 years, they kept seeing me at events and they're like, we're going to hire you, blah, blah, blah. January of 2024, they hired me. Within 4 months, they tripled their revenue.
Wow.
And the guy said to me, he was like, and I could curse myself out right now because I allowed my limiting beliefs to get in the way of my company's growth.
And do you mind if I ask you, and I don't want to know the company, obviously, but what would the industry be? What would their industry be close to? Or I'm not even asking what the industry is.
Okay. I love the question, and I want people to hear this loud and clear. This industry is one of maybe 50 industries that this works for.
Right.
So when I say the industry, what people do, they have this limiting belief in their head and the switch flicks. And the next thought is, well, that's not going to work in my industry. It worked there. But the truth is, it's not about the industry. It's about the psychology of the buyer. And if you can master the psychology of the buyer, because guess what? Dwayne doesn't just buy in one industry. He actually buys in multiple industries throughout the week, maybe a dozen different industries. But Dwayne's psychology goes with him. He's not a test tube baby that's only looking for, let's say, marketing support. And this is the way people in marketing support that have needs think. No, he brings his psychology with him. So I'll tell you the industry, and then we can get back to the psychology topic.
Yeah, please.
But here's the trick. That company is in commercial and residential construction, but it doesn't matter because we doubled a business in medical device. We've doubled businesses in life sciences and in realtors are blowing up, consultants, because of the psychological needs of buyers are the same. A buyer has 3 psychological needs that need to be met. If you can master these 3 psychological needs, you will win deals all friggin' day. And that's where life becomes a lot of fun.
Sorry, what were the 3 psychological needs?
Well, the first one is, and everybody listening has these same psychological needs. The first psychological need is the need for clarity. They need clarity 2 ways. They need clarity on what their problem is. They need somebody to help them define the problem. Then, once you've pinned them down on this problem, like saying, that's great, Dwayne. If I understand this correctly, is this the problem? And if we solved that problem, would it be valuable to you? Dwayne's like, great. And like, cool. Well, I can solve that problem. Now you get into the second part of clarity. The second part of clarity is they need clarity around your solution. And without that, they'll never buy. Okay. So we use video situationally to follow up after meetings or to respond to confusion. And the reason we use video is it allows us to teach and put the information up on the screen next to us. Because when we put the information up on the screen next to somebody, do you know what happens? Their visual learning part of their brain kicks in. And we learn 60,000 times faster visually than with written information. And yet a lot of outdated salespeople are relying on written information. But once you go visual, people see things differently. Let me give you an example. Dwayne, you don't have to answer this question. This is really for everybody else. But have you ever been in like a Starbucks or a coffee place, or you sat down and we're having lunch, and then all of a sudden your brain's on something else, but all of a sudden something in the corner of your eye walks by and it's kind of sexy, and your brain goes bow, bow, chicka, bow, wow, and it happens in like 3 seconds. And in 3 seconds, you see it, you know it, and you like it, right? What happened? Something visual happened. My wife and I are sitting at a stoplight, and all of a sudden a Porsche goes by, and I'm like, yo, look at that car. And like 2 weeks later, we're test driving it and driving it home. What happened? Something visual happened. So when we start to realize that salespeople aren't teaching people the way they prefer to learn, and that people are 4 times more likely to watch video than to read. And when you transfer knowledge with a video and you do it visually, people retain 95% of that message, but only 10% when they read it. Reading is an inferior teaching modality. We've all learned this. This is why when we were kids, Dwayne, you seem old enough to remember going to a video store.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
Did you ever not read the book? And instead you went and got the movie?
100%. That's how I got through school.
That's how we got through school. You see, even back then, you knew that you were a faster learner visually, right? My video store clerk growing up in Manhattan Beach, California, was none other than Hollywood producer, director Quentin Tarantino. He was my video store clerk. So I'd run in there for Grapes of Wrath. And I'd like run in on a Sunday and the dude would give me the movie and nobody knew he was going to be, famous, but I did the same thing. And when somebody's done watching your business video, and these don't have to be Spielberg, or maybe I should say Tarantino productions, they're just simple little, they take you 2 minutes to make. And when you're done, when somebody's done watching this video that you send, which could be a proposal video, they're 85% more likely to buy. Do you see how the numbers just stack in your favor when you teach people the way they prefer to learn?
Yeah, 100%.
It's a game changer for business.
To me, I was just, as you're saying this, it's like, it not only is it a game changer for business, and I think we talked about this before the podcast when we were kind of pitching and catching, which was, this is a podcast not just for business, but it's also one for relationships. And, instead of sending your, significant other a text, I love you, whatever, it's like a quick video would be like, I never thought about it, but this is something I'm going to start doing in my relationship,
When I, people are so scared to send a video, but what ends up happening, they got all these fears of how people are going to react. And when you do send it in business or a personal video, you will get one word back consistently. And it's a 4-letter word and probably not the one you're expecting. It's love. Oh my God, if in a sales context, oh my God, I love you guys. Like nobody does this for me. You made it so easy. And in return, the prospect feels massively significant within the salesperson's organization. Okay. All these people out there are thinking about AI as a high speed engagement, wham, bam, thank you, ma'am technique. But the reality is I love AI and I use it all day. But when I want to interact with my prospects, I want them to feel significant. I can win against AI any day by making my prospects understand the clarity, which is the first psychological need in the solution. The second psychological need is buyers have a psychological need for knowing our credibility. This is why, like, whenever somebody's trying to buy from you guys, the question is like, yeah, that's great and all, but have you ever done anything like this for somebody like me? Like, who's gotten that question? Like, we all have, right? That's an indicator that they're expressing their second psychological need for knowing that you've done this before. So when you're creating a video for somebody, after you provide them with clarity, you need to tell them a story about a case study of success and you put it up on the screen next to you, and then you unlock their second psychological need. And the third psychological need in almost every business situation is buyers have a need to collaborate with the other people on their team that are going to help them make a decision. And it doesn't matter if you're a solopreneur. If you're selling, or maybe I should say selling to a solopreneur, they still have a spouse or a member of their team, or maybe a parent that they're going to consult with. And if you don't win that path to yes by giving your champion a video of you talking about the deal, you're allowing your champion, or I should say, relying on your champion to play the game of telephone and try to share your information while also exceeding the 3 psychological needs. They have to share it with clarity. They have to give your credibility, and they also have to facilitate collaboration. And if you rely on your internal champion to do that, you're losing so much money. You should be irritated with yourself when all you have to do is learn the new trick, put it up on the screen, walk everybody through. Hey, Dwayne, great talking to you earlier. And Angela and Jenny, my name is Todd Hartley. And Dwayne and I have been working on this strategy. I want to walk you through it, explain the project, answer any questions that you might have. Then you walk people through it. Like, people deserve that ability to evaluate you. And that's where revenue doubles like that.
Yeah, I can. So as you say that, I think about it and I go, wow, the power just in that last one, being able to support your champion, and because there's a risk for the champion to have to go in there and present, and then they get, battered by a bunch of questions that they can't answer. They don't know the full story. It deleverages, their positioning in the business, in the company, with their boss, with their peers, whatever that looks like. And it's like, you're just doing like such a huge favor. I never actually, because the old tactic is, well, let me get in front of the people, the decision maker, or the people that are involved in this, or the CFO, or whatever it is. And those now are more and more difficult because, as you say, people are working remotely. So you're really, now I'm starting to piece this even together beyond the book.
Yeah, it took me 4 years to write the book, and I'm grateful that I was able to get it out of my head, because the book covers the 5 zones of influence across an organization and how to use video and these strategies to win. And that's awesome. And I love it. But what I really love is when people start winning consistently. And part of the responsibility of the salesperson is to ask, hey, Dwayne, who else is going to help you make this decision? And I'll tell you, a lot of salespeople are scared to ask it because they think it's prying information. But the truth is, as soon as you ask it, you'll realize that maybe 90% of the time, the champion that you're interacting with, the prospect, will start telling you, well, I've got to make sure that Jenny sees it. She's the CFO. And then I'm also going to meet with Suzanne, who's the CEO. Now you have everything you need, because the CFO is going to be making an economic decision. The CFO is going to want the full picture. So as you're doing your video, you're like, and I can't remember the example of the Suzanne or Jenny. I think Jenny's the CFO. But so I would say, and for Jenny, as you're evaluating the financials for this deal, let me walk you through the financials and show you how this economically works in your benefit. Remember, altruistic persuasion for their best interest. And then you show them the economics and anticipate the next economic question. Like, can you pay this does it have to be paid in one lump sum, or can you set up a retainer? Like, you just handle those questions in advance, and then you address the CEO. And when you do this, people that you've never met will start signing checks for you without hesitation, because you gave them the clarity and the credibility that they deserved in order to collaborate inside the office.
And so you have 5 zones in your book, and we should probably go through. Oh, and you know what? I just realized, guys, the book is called Accelerating Yes. I don't think we put that out there yet. So you can get it on Amazon. It's a fantastic book. I highly, highly, highly recommend people grab this book. And I'm not saying as a matter of fact, I'll say this, Todd, you're the first person on this podcast that I actually don't personally know or have done business with, but you've done business with Tony, and I know Tony. And so there's a really tight referral there. But I'll say, this was hard for me to say, to get you on the show, because it's literally the first person in 11 months since we've been doing the podcast that I don't know who you are, but you come with such a great reference from Tony and his people. So I felt really confident having you on. But then when I read the book, it was just like, wow, holy shit, this guy's got something to offer. So I want to say this I'm not making a commission off your book. I don't monetize this podcast. Everybody knows that. But I do believe, it's important for me when I see something that I think is fruitful for anybody to help support their business and grow their business and help their customers and all that kind of stuff. This is, Todd's got some really good stuff here. So I just want to say that.
Thank you. I appreciate it tremendously, but, and there maybe shouldn't have been a but there. I appreciate it tremendously. I get to live in the helper's high, and helping people win is so much fun for me. It's really addicting, and I love it. And I own a digital marketing agency. And when we start working on companies and laying out their strategies, there's a very common thread. And that thread can be used if you're a Fortune 500 or a solopreneur to close deals in less time. And it's about how we manage our knowledge transfer inside of our prospect's head and turn them into buyers. That's a lot of fun.
Yeah. And none of this is, just by the way, for anybody who might be resistant because you're a late adopter. This is not, what Todd is teaching here is not going to make somebody buy that doesn't need your product. It just helps, clear the channel for the transaction and the communication to be more clear. So, but you have 5 zones. I don't know if you want to talk about them or how you want to handle it, but there's, zone 1, discovery. Do you want to just wherever you want to take this? I'm cool.
Okay, here's what I love, you guys. When you have a digital marketing agency and you start to identify a large company or a small company's marketing or sales problems, it's very easy if you create zones so your team can communicate, oh, that's a zone 1 problem or that's a zone 3 problem, okay? Because you can't actually solve anything until you define it. We all know that, right? You've got to define it so everybody can focus in on it. And it's the same in the medical space or in accounting or whatever. Zone 1 is discovery. This is like how people find you. So how do people find you? Social media, email lists, maybe a webinar, maybe an ad. Those are the big, a referral, a joint venture with a partner. Like those are the big ones. Maybe a book. A podcast like we're on right now, right?
Yeah.
Those are the big zone 1s. If you need leads, where is the problem that you need to solve? It's in zone 1, okay? Zone 1's primary goal is to move traffic that gets discovered into zone 2. So what is zone 2? Your website. You see, in most businesses, not so true for like an impulse buy or buying something off of Instagram, but for most businesses, you move the traffic from zone 1 where they discovered you, and you move them over into a website where they go on a journey. And they go on a buyer's journey and they evaluate you and they go down what we call the rabbit hole. So in zone 2, I teach you how to create the rabbit hole on your site or using my video selling tool called clarity.video, where you don't need any web development expertise in order to create a rabbit hole. And I give you the strategies that we would use for our, that our clients would pay like hundreds of thousands of dollars to use. So zone 2. And that also is like how to use video. What messages do you need to say at what place on the page, all the way down? And how do you get them to book a meeting or make a purchase or sign the agreement? That's zone 2. Zone 3 are all of the strategies that salespeople use. What is the goal for sales? It's to close deals. But if somebody needs to evaluate you, you need to send them back into zone 2, the website or the journey page, so they can evaluate you. Really, the best businesses in marketing sales, your teams are just traffic cops. You're just like, traffic comes in, go this way. Right? You just found me, go over into zone 2 and then go down the page and schedule a meeting if you believe in it, or sign the contract or buy now. That's zone 2. Zone 3, just as sales moves people through the paths. And when you're in meetings with people, identify where they're hung up. So maybe they're lacking your credibility. You can follow up after the meeting. If you saw in their eyes that they didn't believe your story about the testimonial, about your, the company that you helped, follow up after and go, hey, Dwayne, it was great talking with you. And to help your team, see how I did this altruistically, to help your team make a smart decision. I know you asked about our client success stories, and then you put up the website for your client that you served, that you got a success story and maybe a quote from them, and you put it up visually, because just like somebody attractive walking by you at Starbucks, people will know it when they see it, and they'll know it fast when you do it visually, and you want to put it in video for them. So that's like one of the many of zone 3 tactics. Zone 4 is, how do you support your existing clientele? Like, that's the low-hanging fruit. These are the people that already know, love, and trust you. And a zone 4 deal closes faster than any other, because You've already got their credit card. They've already got your, tax paperwork. You've already signed an original agreement, and they'll buy from you. And all you have to do is set up certain tactics, like we talk in the book, to engage inside of zone 4, your existing clientele. Zone 5 is, how do you train your existing team so they will talk like you talk? I'm in a lunch in South Beach at the Fontainebleau Hotel with a CEO of a medical device company. And I said, how's the conference going? Because they're in the middle of a conference. And she said, it's going okay, Todd. But candidly, my best salespeople are here. And I'm listening. And you know what I'm hearing? 5 different stories about who we are, 5 different stories about what our device is for and who it helps. And what I'm picking up on is massive market confusion. Mm-hmm. And this is where Zone 5 was born. I was like, why don't we create a series of training videos where your top salesperson teaches it and everybody gets certified? And this is the way we want, in order for you to work here, we want you to explain the company and our impact. And now you clear up the confusion. And I just happened to be writing the book at that point. And I was like, whoop, Zone 5. I thought up to that point, there was only 4 zones.
Interesting.
Right? So those are the 5 zones.
Do you mind if I just ask a few questions about some of the zones? Because as I was, I made some pretty detailed notes, but in zone 1, you kind of, and that's the discovery phase. You talk about like avoiding product-centric marketing. And do you mind, can you just jump on that a little bit? Because I feel like a lot of people do that in their websites, and it gets, or in their marketing to try to bring people in. And I think it'd be really valuable.
Yeah, I think it's a great question. It's a very smart question. I'm glad you identified that. When you have a product-centric marketing plan, it's about your solution. It's about the device. It's about the service that you provide. In most cases, that's where the landing page starts for many companies. I would say most. And you've all seen it. You come onto somebody's website. Now I'm in zone 2. Okay. We should be talking about what their problem is. What are they struggling with? We should be aligning. We should be finding out what their real desires are. And we should do that before we start pitching our solution. So what most companies do is they start off already talking about their solution, and they've missed the most important part of the relationship, which is the alignment, the listening. God gave us 2 ears and 1 mouth, right? We should be listening more, and we should be connecting with people. And salespeople that are consistently on the leaderboard in large organizations are the ones that listen, show an interest, and then present the proper solution. Companies that don't win a lot of deals start off with their solution. So one of the first things we do at our agency is we break their path that isn't working and restructure it. So the first thing they do is they align on the needs, pain, and frustrations. And let me explain why. When you align on somebody's needs, it feels intimate to them. When you understand what their frustrations are, they see you differently. They see you as a trusted advisor that doesn't think of them as a transaction to hit a revenue goal. Instead, they see you as a fellow voyager that's going to help them solve the problem that they're struggling with. You have to be interested enough to listen and to ask smart questions. So anything in zone 1 and in zone 2 at the beginning should really be about aligning. Then you move people down.
Sorry, go ahead. Sorry.
Even on the landing page, the journey page, you're going to take somebody on a journey page. In the book, we cover 5, the momentum method. How do you move somebody in 5 steps down the page? And we give it to you in the book. But here's the really interesting thing. The first 2 steps are all about aligning emotionally. What are they struggling with? The third step is really about why the other options in the marketplace don't work. And the fourth step is why your solution is the best. Even there, we're presenting alignment long before we talk about our solution. And I look at it a lot like, I'm sure you guys have seen this 1,000 times, but think back to when we were all just kids and we'd be in a bar and some random creepy dude would come up to a girl and hit on her and in 3 seconds invite her back to go see his karaoke machine at his house, right? You've seen this before. And it happens right in front of you and you're like, what in the world just happened? What happened is they didn't align. The creepy dude didn't ask questions and listen and align emotionally. What are their needs, pain, frustrations, develop a relationship of trust. So it became one of these like weird cultural phenomenons. And when you go onto websites and the first thing you see is about the product, the same creepy dude in bar scenarios happening, but it's your company selling before they've listened and shown that they understand and they know what solutions don't work and what does work. It's a whole different relationship dynamic.
Yeah. Yeah. It's really getting to the emotional like reason for somebody to wanting whatever it is that you have to offer. I liken it as you were kind of thinking about it as like one of the things I don't do anymore is like I never go to a grocery store. I won't go to a bank. I won't anywhere where I have to wait in line. I just won't wait. And it's not that I think that like my time is worth more than anybody else's or anything like that. It's to me, it's grown to the point where, you know, at first it was like, geez, you know, like I'm standing in line and, you know, I could be doing something else, you know, or making money versus like standing in line and the cost of me to be in line. And then I realized like, it's actually the emotional. So to me, that's the surface problem, but the emotional problem to that was that it wasn't about work necessarily or my time or my time worth or trading a dollar for, you know, a minute or whatever it was. It was that it became a violation to me because as I started to rationalize and think about it more was that there was a violation around I could be spending time with my wife, with my kids, or in my business too, things that I'm obviously way more passionate about than standing in line in a bank or at a grocery store. But it was, you know, it was an internal problem. It was like, for me, it was like, you know, like they're taking time from my wife. They're taking time from my kids. And, you know, and you do 10 of those in a day. And all of a sudden you have all the reasons why you can't pick up your kid from school, why you can't, go for a walk with your wife or and so to me, that's the emotional side of it. It's like, also, as you were talking, I was thinking, yeah, if I was selling eave troughs, you know, and my eave troughs were always overflowing, the emotional side is not it's the product is the eave trough. But every time you walk out of your house and when it's raining and the water's coming over onto the porch and you walk through it and you get wet and then you're going to work and you look like shit. And, it's like, that's the emotional side of, the problem. And every buyer has one.
And if the buyer is not connected to the emotion of the problem, they will not reach into their wallet and make a purchase. The saying is an emotionally unaffected buyer will not buy. Right?
Yeah.
This is why, first, clarity. What is their problem that they're struggling with? If we solved this problem, would it be valuable to you? That's like second question, right? If we solved this, would this be valuable? Because if they say no, you're not going to get the deal. An emotionally unaffected buyer will not buy.
Right.
And you may have to re-engage them around the emotions there. But you go into these companies, these massive companies, they know in their data that if somebody says yes to those questions, like, is this the right problem? And if we solved it, would it be valuable to you? They know that if somebody says yes, that like 80% of the time, those deals are going to close. They know if somebody says no, they have to start over because only like 20 or 15% will close. I mean, these big companies manage that kind of data. And I'm just like a nerd for it. When I see it, I'm like, this makes so much sense. You got to get people to commit to solving that problem. And often it starts with, what is the impact of this problem? What's the frustration? What's the cost of doing nothing?
Yeah. How long are you willing to put up with this for? Like creating that leverage. Is that what you're kind of
Yes,
talking about?
exactly.
Yeah.
Tony says something all the time that I think of right here also. You get what you tolerate.
Mm-hmm.
How long are you willing to tolerate that problem?
Yeah. What's it gonna cost you over the next 2 to 5 years?
To do nothing, right? Like that's where a salesperson has to reconnect the prospect to the pain and the frustration so they can move them to the solution. This is not manipulative. This is altruistic for their own best interest.
Yeah. And I think, when I think about when you say this, I go, what is it, and I'm going to say this to the audience, if you're not using video, which also I'm going to say something right now, we have a company that absolutely should be using this. It's not using this. And the question I keep on asking myself is like, how long am I willing to leave meat on the bone, money on the table, whatever you want to call it, by not adopting this type of strategy? And you've really got to be able to, adopt and innovate and jump into some type of technology like this. That's why I'm just so excited to have you on and have this conversation.
I'm geeked out about it. And I think we've got a lot of people that are like, people that want to lose weight. I think you got a lot of people that want to lose weight, but don't want to work out or don't want to cut back on their consumption. Sometimes that's me. And then in sales, you got a lot of salespeople that are like, we want to crush our goals, but they're only going to crush their goals if it's within their comfort level. And we all know comfort's the enemy of growth. They do not live together.
Yeah, it's true. It's absolutely true. I have a question on zone 2. You had talked a little bit about persona groups. And you talked about dividing your prospective clients into persona groups. And could you just kind of discuss that a little bit?
What business do you want to use as an example? Take one that you want me to just come up with one?
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. So
you know the book better than I do.
Yeah, but it works for every business. Yeah. It really does.
Yeah.
And this is also when you realize that the person wrote the book, when they're like, well, let me give you an example from the book, right? Because sometimes these authors today, they didn't write it, like AI wrote it for them. So they didn't read the damn thing. So I'll give you a couple examples that are in the book. And let's say you are a medical device company. And if you just said to yourself, oh, that sucks, that isn't my industry, just lift this up as a blueprint because it works in every industry. I'll give you others in just a second. But in medical device, let's say you sell to a surgeon, a breast surgeon, but that's not the only person involved in the path to yes. Sometimes there's another decision maker. Sometimes the decision makers, like the nurse, the head of the care team in the operating room, they're the ones that are going to set this thing up. They have different needs than the surgeon. Surgeon cares about what it feels like in their hand and if it makes them faster and more effective and doesn't cramp their hand like the current device on the market. The nurse, the care team that's going to set it up, they're concerned with, does it connect to our existing medical record system? Does it communicate to, let us know that this patient has had a successful outcome? What's the ease of cleaning and resetting it up for the next person? But neither the surgeon nor the nurse has the checkbook. So who has the money? Because they're a part to the path to yes. Well, in this scenario, it's probably a hospital CFO, and they don't care about the ergonomics or the ease of cleaning. They care about the economic decision. How many more bodies can we serve on a day because this device is better? Those are different arguments. Create a different page for each one, and then your salesperson just becomes the traffic cop. Who am I talking with? Who needs to be influenced? Let me get the right journey page in front of them. And journey pages are easy to create in my Clarity app. Another example is, let's say you're a realtor. What do you got? You got a buyer and you got a seller. Those are different needs. Do you see that? Fireworks just went off behind me. My HOA doesn't even allow me to set off fireworks in the middle of the day. And so you've got different journeys. Somebody who wants to buy a home needs to know that you're out there hustling and you've got a good feel for the market and you have a track record of getting prices below the ask. Somebody that wants to sell has a different story and they have different needs, pain, and frustrations. So you got to align with them differently. You have different personas that you need to influence. And the stories may be similar, but there's nuanced differences. I'll give you another example. Let's say you're a realtor and you live where I live in Scottsdale, Arizona. And if you know anything about Scottsdale right now, like, all of California is fleeing. They're like, ah, and they're coming out to Scottsdale, right? I gotta get out of there. And they're coming out here. What if you're a realtor and you're like, yo, if I just had a journey page because a buyer isn't more specific enough for what I'm dealing with? What if I had a page that just focused on out of town buyers and how I support people to make the right investment when they can't come here and look at the actual property because they're stuck in California? Like, that's a different story. So once you've got different personas, now you've got different journey pages with different stories that you can use. And the more aligned your story is to that prospect's need, pain, and frustrations, the more you're able to influence them in an intimate and personal way so you can help solve their problems. Because once that realtor sends the out-of-town buyer, they're like, oh, I specialize in out-of-town buyers. Think of the nuanced difference that an out-of-town buyer would get. They could get the buyer page, but if you were from out of town and you got an out-of-town buyer page, all of a sudden you see your realtor as being like the friggin' go-to expert that specializes in this because they took the extra 5 minutes to create the page for out-of-town buyers. Yeah. That's a difference maker.
100%. Like, you could offer different services like concierge driving. You could school systems, understand, like, it's just it's a totally different buyer. I think, like, and I'm glad you explained this because it was when I was reading it, I was like, okay, this is really, really critical. I think it's a couple of things that we're probably need to optimize in some of our landing pages. And there's not, I just want to say, and I want, this is more for clarification, but it seems to me like there's not 100 persona like personas. There's 5, 6, depending on the type of business you're in, maybe not even that many. But I want to reiterate, or I want to question that. And I want the listener to also question that in their own mind of, who are the persona, profiles that are buying and that we're influencing, whether it's a mom, a dad, a kid, all together, divided families, integrated families. You know what I mean?
It's such a good point. Don't get crazy with your journey pages. Think about the big buckets. They have different stories. Create a different journey page for the different buckets. And when you do that, when it's received on the other end, it feels intimate and personalized to them. And I'll give you guys an example. Dwayne, do you have a sports team that you like?
We're moving to Florida, so I got to pick the Miami Dolphins.
Okay, cool. Like it. Thank you. If I sent you a journey about the NFL, if I sent you an email about the NFL, you might not read the email at all. But if I sent it about the Miami Dolphins and 5 key things to know, you're going to read the whole damn thing because you want to fit in, right? In Florida and be part of the same is true when the page is more relevant to the needs, pain, and frustrations of the recipient, they will give you greater attention span. And a lot of people complain. They're like, well, Todd, our prospects have short attention spans. And that's a problem because, and the truth is, they don't have short attention spans. Like, they can sit in front of their couch all damn day and watch Netflix. If you don't believe it, have just look at your own couch, and you've got a butt divot right there where you sit. Prop your tush, right? This is not a species with a short attention span problem.
Yep.
This is a species that's got an overabundance of options. And the way that you hold somebody's attention is you make the option that they're looking at super relevant to them.
Yeah, I agree. That is a total issue of you not meeting your potential client where they are at.
Bingo. Yeah. Right there, bro. You are spot on. And when I hear somebody, they're like, our prospects, they have short attention spans. What I really hear is the marketer hasn't unraveled how to be personalized and relevant. And it probably means the marketer hasn't had any time being face-to-face or in meetings to listen. Because once you hear, all of the clues start to present themselves.
Yep. You're nicer than I am, because my response would be you gave up thinking, or you stopped, you stopped at easy. And when it started to get hard, you just fucking gave up on it. So, I mean,
I get it. You're right. I am nicer than you.
Yeah. But I mean, I say it like that and I'm joking, but I'm also not joking, because we're, like you said, we're creatures of comfort, and we will. I'm the same way. I do the same thing. I'm not projecting. Anything I say on this podcast is because I've either done it, made the mistake more than once, and I've done that a million times. It's just like, I stopped that easy, and didn't really. I got this going on, got that going on, busy, and we didn't dive in, or we didn't do enough. And I just say to the listeners, be careful when you listen to Todd's message. And you're grouping your client into a certain category, you may just not be, you may have not gone far enough. So, in support of you, brother. I don't want to. I mean, I know we have a time thing. We still have some time, but you did talk about earlier too, the momentum methods, the 5 questions. Are those worth going through?
Well, they're all in the book.
Yeah.
But,
it's kind of how I felt.
They're very easy. Once you realize that you can't start off with, hey, nice to meet you. Want to get out of here and go see my fish tank? Or, hey, do you want to go and see my karaoke machine? You can't start that way. So you got to start with here are the 5 steps. Let me give you a little background on momentum first. Have you guys ever read a book that's got really big chapters? The chapters are like, you feel like it's taking forever to get through this book. This book's a burden. And you finally get to that next chapter and you're like, oh, finally, new chapter. So that is low momentum. But if you read a book that's got short chapters and you turn the page and you're like, I am crushing this book, and you got confidence, okay? Listen up. If you want somebody to book a meeting with you, don't move them through a slow process. Keep everything at a high level, limited amounts of words, use images or video to do the heavy lifting, and you will generate excitement and momentum as they're crushing it and learning. So we want to use limited words, like 50 to 100 words per section. There are 5 steps in the momentum method, and you have to know your goal before you start writing. So maybe the goal is to get them to book a meeting. Like, click the button to schedule a meeting, right? And you just build that right into your Clarity Journey page, and they can access your calendar. Or maybe it's make a purchase and you give them a link to PayPal or a Stripe account, or maybe it's sign the agreement. Know it when you start writing it. First step is, what does this target audience care about today when they came onto this page? That's the first step. The second step is, what is the real problem or desire that you solve without mentioning your solution? Third step, why are competitor options inferior? You have to do this in this world, because in the old world, salespeople were in the trenches on a daily basis talking about why the competitor, company XYZ. This type of solution doesn't work for this, and that. Salespeople used to do that, but now 73% of decision makers are going to evaluate you when you're not there. Later in the evening, your journey page needs to address why competitor options are inferior. And if you don't, they will do what you do when you go down somebody else's journey. What will you do? If you don't find out about the competitors, you'll feel like your research isn't complete. So you'll go to a website that maybe you've heard of before called Google, and you'll start searching about competitors. And you don't want people to start leaving. You need them to stay in your rabbit hole. So address why, in the third point, competitor options are inferior. And then and only then, point 4, can you talk about why your solution is the friggin' best? That is your moment to talk about your fish tank or your karaoke machine. Step 5 is, what are the questions, the frequently asked questions that somebody needs answers to before they're willing to push the button and either schedule a meeting, make a payment, sign a contract. That's what you do. 5 steps, and you'll discover that when you create the first one, the first journey page, all you have to do is duplicate or clone the page again and make your minor modifications off of the first one to adjust to your second persona group. Okay. Here's what I love. I get writer's cramp. So I went to one of our copywriters at Wirebuzz, my digital agency, and I was like, yo, I'm stuck writing this damn journey page. And they're like, where are you? What point? And I said, oh, I'm on point 2 and it's just taking me forever. And she goes, oh, dude, start at point 4. You know our solution. Start there. Like, write that spot first. Then write why the competitor options are. So you don't have to, when you write it, you can go to the bottom, like point 4, write that one, and then work your way up. I find it works best when I work my way from the bottom up. And that's just me. But I also know that as I'm going through those steps, people, and we have to use limited words, because the more words we use, the slower it becomes for them. But all they're really going to do is what you do. We go down a page on somebody's website and we're like, oh, this is exactly how we do it. You do it. You probably use the same exact words. Oh, they do that? Check. And you go to the next box and you're like, oh, and they provide that? Check. And they go down below. Okay. And then there's this, check. Before you know it, you've just breezed through the page. So don't write an owner's manual. It's not relevant yet.
Right.
Just get their ass into the meeting or whatever the next step is, and you'll be surprised how few words you actually need.
And I just wanted to circle back on the 5th question of the momentum is it's
just frequently asked questions.
Yeah, frequently asked questions and satisfying any potential doubt that might arise.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, this could be like
common area roadblocks.
Yeah. And what are payment options like?
Warranty.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. And so don't go too far because you really need them just to get into the meeting. And then really here's something that's controversial. And at the bottom of the journey page, you know what the number one reason people leave other people's landing pages or journey pages? Number one, not even close to others, is when they don't see pricing. When they don't see pricing, they get pissed off and they bail. And then what do? They go to Google and then they start researching. Instead, give them some rough prices. Say like all prices will be firmed up. If you can't give them a firm price right there, give them all prices will be firmed up after we know more about your specific needs. But here's some small, medium, and large size pricing. And the reason you want to do that is you could do that on the journey page at Clarity. And the reason you want to do that is you stop their research and you appease their biggest need. It's the highest friction point, the irritation, the psychological resistance to taking the next step. They need to know pricing. And it'll help you eliminate tire kickers, and people won't get sticker shock on your price anymore.
I
They won't
think
get
that,
sticker shock because they'll have vetted themselves.
I think this is a massive point to make. And if there's any areas that you'd expand on it, I would love it from the psychology of the customer. But I just literally had this conversation, wasn't 2 weeks ago. I was out on the East Coast and we were walking actually on the beach and with a buddy of mine, and we were chatting about strategies and all that kind of stuff. And we talked exactly about this point. And I think, you know, you guys are kind of, I don't know if he read your book or not, but but he kind of talked about packaging them in like packages, like in groups, as you know, as best you can. It's not going to be exact pricing as you said, but you know, packaging them in groups and providing pricing, because the customer just leaves the site and moves on. So, and I don't know if you have any stats around this, but I mean, my hallucination is that some listeners will have a very difficult time with this because, number one, they think their business is so special or the product is so special or the service is so special that it's hard to describe what the pricing would exactly be. Number two is they need some level of certainty before they give pricing because they don't want to get into a conversation that, you know, everybody hates being into. And I'm making this up off the top of my head here, and maybe the third one is like, people I don't think they're in tune with the new way of, and I don't think I even was before I read your book. I was like, when you threw out those stats of like 75% or whatever it was at the beginning of the podcast I had said, I was like, what? Like, so
yeah, people don't want to talk to a salesperson.
Yeah.
And until they've narrowed it down to the company that they want to meet with. So one of the smartest things we can do is provide people what they need, and they need to know if they can afford you. So let me give you a real story, because this point right here, pricing, is where another big limiting belief pops up. I commonly hear exactly what went through my office. It sounded like this. Todd, the number one friction, irritation that people have when they come down through a journey page is there's no pricing, so they bail. Do you realize we don't have pricing on our video creation page? And so we're losing all this traffic because people are irritated with us. I said, it's impossible. All of our prices are custom. Does this sound familiar to you as you're listening? If you're saying that's impossible, well, welcome to my life. So for 3 years, my strategy team pushed back at me. And these are like the biggest marketing nerds you've ever met. They work on Fortune 500 companies like all the time. And they're like, yeah, but you're losing a lot of business. So for 3 years, I was like, it's impossible. Eventually, I was like, why don't you guys go figure it out and come back and give me your answer on what we should do? And in my head, I was like, smart asses. Right?
I'll show them.
Yeah, I'll show them.
Right.
Within 2 days, they came back to me and they were like, all right, we're going to do just like Starbucks. I'm like, what do you mean just like Starbucks? We're going to do grande, venti, tall, or whatever the Starbucks language is. And I go, well, that doesn't work for us because all of our prices are custom. And they go, oh, there's an asterisk right up here on the top that says all prices are rough ranges. Yours will be firmed up after our first meeting. Now what we did, and I was like, that's interesting. What I thought was the most interesting is how it impacted our meetings. Because 85% of people that got into either a conference room or got onto a Zoom call already saw that page. And when we revealed the price after like 2 meetings, people stopped freaking out. They stopped getting sticker shock. And then they just started buying from us. They already knew what was in their wallet. They vetted themselves.
Yeah. No, it makes sense. I mean, I had the same exact answer. Like when we were talking about it, I was like, oh, our business is so customized. You know, there's no way that we could do this. And then, you know, the more we started talking, I'm like, okay, well, maybe there's, you know, 2 or 3 buckets we could figure it out, or 4 buckets. And yeah, it's, you know, it's our own
I'll give you an
mindset.
Example. I have 2 journey pages for my sales training. A journey page for an individual that wants to go through the sales training, and a journey page for a corporate sales team. Who am I talking with? Which play do I need to run at what time? You know what makes Tom Brady great and the greatest of all time? He's not the most athletic quarterback, not even like in the top 100, and doesn't have the best arm. But the dude just called the right play at the right time. He called the right play. So if I'm trying to sell something and I know that I've got sales training for individuals and corporate sales trainings, who am I talking with? Which journey page which play do I need to run to get my desired outcome? And if I'm talking to somebody at a sales team, an organization, I send them the right page. And then it's got pricing. And it's rough pricing. But they're not going to burn my time if they can't afford my rough pricing.
How many companies, and you might, I guess I'm asking you to guess this, but what percentage of businesses do you think have their pricing appropriately or even on their website? Very few. It's got to be like, I don't even know if it'd be 10%.
They're scared. They're like, here's the number one thing I hear is like, after it's impossible because all of our prices are custom. The second most common thing is we don't want our competitors to know our pricing, which is really interesting because 2/3 of their team used to work at the competitors and 1/3 of their team now works at their competitor's location. Like, it's all incestuous. Everybody knows what everybody's pricing is.
Right. Really, it's not a big secret, but people just want to. I think sometimes too.
The only person it's a secret to is the damn prospect who can't figure out if they can afford them or not.
Right. Well, and I think too, to your point earlier in the conversation, you had talked about creating credibility, and I think that putting some pricing out there lends to credibility because I think a lot of times the customer or prospective customer thinks everybody's playing hide the weenie or something, and it's like I'm going to hold my cards behind my chest here, and then all of a sudden we're going to pop, surprise, here's the pricing, and it's like it just doesn't seem to have to be that way anymore.
That's how you lose people. That's how you make enemies. That's how you burn 3 meetings for each person on your team that's in those meetings.
100% agree. Zone 3, we need to get speeding through this. You have an hour and a half timeline here, so I want to be respectful to you. Do we need? Okay, so I'm going to just say Zone 3 talks really about the video, which I have
sales strategies,
and you do an amazing job in the book, I think, of just really making that obvious. And then Zone 4 in terms of the support is really about working with existing clients to upsell clients and cross-sell and, creating videos to help them work through the process of, is it being a client? Is that, or integrating your product into the teams, or how did that land?
Zone 4 is really focused on who are the people that already know, love, and trust you, and how do you sell to them again or upsell them or move them into ongoing support services.
And using video in the ongoing support services.
Yeah. Let me give you an example. More validation that I wrote the book. Let's say you're a chiropractor, but it could be anything. Okay. Let's say you've got phases, like you've got a initial meeting, then you've got so that's like a consult. Then you've got a treatment plan. And then after the treatment plan, you've got a maintenance plan, right? Most companies after the treatment stop the work. But what is the next step for them to be even more successful? So here's how you do it. You create a video after somebody books the first meeting, after somebody's in a meeting, you've got a video that goes out as a follow-up. And it says, here's what to expect when you come into the office. This is the chiropractor example. We're going to do a workup. We're going to evaluate you. We're going to see where your issues are. We're going to do some x-rays, blah, blah, blah. And after that, we're going to have an idea of what your treatment plan is like. So then when the doctor gives them their treatment plan, the follow-up is a video about the treatment plan. Now they've got great visibility. They can share it with their spouse who couldn't be there because their spouse had to work, because frankly, somebody's got to make money. And then when the treatment plan, like maybe it's 3 sessions or 7 sessions, is running out, you send them a follow-up before they come into their last one about the ongoing maintenance plan. You show them visually what's going to happen next. It works like this in any business. Just figure out what are your steps and serve people at the right time, because somebody may hire you to do one thing and not know that you've got 7 other services. Can you start to phase the videos through so they know that you've got other services? Because they're more likely to buy from you. I don't recall the stat off the top of my head. I know it's in the book, but it's something like people are 75% more likely to buy from a company that they're already being served by than go out and explore a new one. But yet most companies don't serve existing clients in a way that's going to upsell them, right, and keep them coming back for more. Yeah. A lot of lost revenue on the table. A Bain & Company stat is a 5% retention on your existing clients. Just a 5% retention can increase your revenue by 75%.
Wow.
It has huge impact. And most people are on the front end, on the sales side. They don't think about what to do on retention. That's why I wrote The Fourth Zone.
Yeah, smart. I have a question that's been gnawing away at me here, and I'm curious. It's not in your book, and I don't recall seeing it in your book, but I'm curious what your thoughts are as AI starts to unravel and expand in its ability and the technology. Where do you think sales goes in regards to the profession of sales? I mean, that's how I started. I started as a salesperson, and I remember I read a book. Peter Drucker wrote, "Nothing happens in a business until a sale is made." And I read that 35 or 40 years ago, and it's never, ever left my mind. And I'm going to say this to people who are listening. Like, if you own a business, or you're working in a business, or you're the CEO of a business, you have an obligation to drive revenue. You have got to be making sure that you are doing the utmost that you can to build revenue, because that is the lifeblood of the business.
And everybody in the business has an obligation to identify revenue opportunities and grab an oar, because you help protect everybody's job. There are a lot of people that come in, punch the ticket, and leave. And the people that stay, that get retained whenever there's an economic downturn, are the ones that are thinking about revenue, right? Yeah. So remind me what your question was.
So AI, yeah. Where do you see AI going, or do you have a line of sight on it in regards to what you're doing, videos? I also want to make, that's the question. I also want to make one point to the listener on Zone 4. Those videos that you use to help in the stage of the process of the business, those are generic, right? You're not doing one-offs for specific clients. They're generic videos, correct?
Yeah, they're one. It's called, I consider it a one-to-many. You create it once, it gets used many times.
Yeah.
There are one-to-one videos where the salesperson wants to make their prospect feel significant, or own the path to yes, and you create those unique to the scenario. And the beauty is, it takes you no time. It takes as long as writing an email, but the words that come back from your prospect are all around love. And the people that get hired are the ones that love and trust. And it's the fastest way to get there. So to the AI question,
yep.
And I love this. There are at least 3 areas inside of a business that if you use AI in it, you'll increase your revenue by 55%. I'm starting a training on this right now in just a couple of weeks. And I think sales AI will help you retain revenue and grow revenue in these areas. It'll also speed up the salesperson's time. If you're a salesperson and you're concerned about AI, you should open up your wings and start exploring it. There's revenue there. And ultimately, your job is to innovate on revenue and find ways to bring in more revenue. And if you're the business leader, please know that nobody is going to innovate your business for you. That's your job as the business owner and the business leader. So one of the areas is the no-show rate. When I've studied businesses, it's like 35 to 40% is the no-show rate. Meaning people aren't showing up for meetings, prospects. You already paid for them. And bad salespeople sit back, bad business leaders, and they get what they tolerate, a no-show problem from leads they already paid for. Shame on you for tolerating that. And in the same breath, try to make the claim that you're interested in growing your business. You see, you can set up sales AI tools that remind people that the meeting is coming up and adds value with video of what they should expect in that first meeting. We've already touched on some of that here. But those emails and text message reminders should get your prospects into the meeting. Now you've retained an additional 35% that you would have allowed to go down the drain. Then the next area is ghosting. Oh my God. Ghosting is another 20 to 25% of revenue. I don't know. He's just not calling me back. And people tolerate that. But if they learn the strategies, how to use video and how to use AI, people wouldn't ghost you. You'd have so much value that you're adding that they'd prioritize you. It is a mind shift change. You get what you tolerate, stop tolerating it. I just had a lady, I trained her how to do this. She just won a $10 million deal from somebody that was ghosting her. One deal, $10 million, booyah. And I don't recall off the top of my head what the third one is, but there are 3 key areas where you implement AI. So what do I think about it? I think AI is going to play a massive role. It's going to, the AI will follow up for you. So if they don't reply back in 2 days, the AI is going to follow up and engage them. There's something else. And that's more ghosting. I can't remember what it is off the top of my head, but businesses are going to recoup a lot of revenue using AI. And on these journey pages, like on Clarity, the AI should write the page for you, which speeds up your whole process. And then video outreach for cold prospects, AI plays a big role in that. So number one thing that my clients did last year to book meetings was create videos that the AI sent out to the targeted list of cold prospects. And each salesperson would get like 7 to 10 new meetings a week just on that strategy.
I mean, I know you're in these circles, and so I guess one of my last questions would be, are you hearing about anybody creating AI bots, not chat bots, but AI bots that are able to, now they'll obviously have all your product knowledge, and that they could speak whatever language, they could show up as a woman, a man, different colors, whatever, based on demographic or regional location, that could replace salespeople. Do you see that, or do you hear about that coming at all?
Yes. No. So I'm NDA'd on a large AI company, and they've already got that. AI is going to change the sales process. But here's the deal. When everybody zigs, you zag. When everybody becomes automated, you should also become more personal.
Right. Which is where the video that comes in really handy, right?
Yeah, because we've all got a bullshit detector. And when we get AI that's impersonal and doesn't feel warm, we discount that. But then when we see the opposite, all of a sudden, everybody's rushing right now to AI. And I just laid out like 55% more revenue strategies using AI. So I get that. And you can deploy that. But on the other side, be warmer, be more personable, show greater value. That is the right balance. When everybody started cooking in a microwave, What about the people who knew how to cook on the stove? Then we realized the stove was actually healthier than the microwave. Like, don't go too far on the AI thing and think it's going to win the deal for you. Be warmer.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Well, I mean, I think it allows you to, exactly what you're saying. It allows you to use your personality, and people have to. I think there's a we get so into our phones, and so into the resources that are available to us, and we forget to connect. And I think that's why I love about your videos, the video concept, because it's a different way of connecting. And I, listen, Todd, I mean, I appreciate so much the conversation. I think every listener should go out and buy your book, Accelerating Yes. You need to read. You need to understand that the game is changing. And you actually, I wrote it down in my notes here when I was actually reading the book. On page 19, you made a comment and said, everything has changed. Everything has changed. And I even wrote the page number down, because it was so, when I read it, you read the stats and you go, holy shit, the game has changed, and it's going to change more.
And it's only a fun game if you stay up to speed on it. And I would love to give everybody, if you're okay with it, a gift. I'd love to give everybody in the audience a 60-day free trial to my video selling tool, Clarity, where you can create your journey pages. You can create proposal videos and create videos that guide your prospects through the process. And I'll give you the URL. It is clarity.video/TH. That's me, Todd Hartley. So clarity.video/TH. And you'll get free access for 60 days. Go in there, test it, use it. There's lots of Todd training in there. And you'll be surprised how fast you start closing more revenue.
Awesome. Appreciate that, man. Thank you, brother.
My pleasure. Crush it.
And I'm going to encourage guys, you need to take advantage of that 60-day offer. Do we need to put, like, doing a business, do you need a code or anything, or we're
nope,
good?
I'm just giving it out altruistically. Okay. As I advocate for your audience. And we do have an audiobook. If you want the audiobook at some point, just reach out to me and we'll figure out how to get you access to it.
And where can people find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. That's probably the best place. Facebook, Instagram. I'm on all those platforms, but just hit me up in the DM.
Okay. So, and it's Todd Hartley on Instagram, Todd Hartley, all one word.
Instagram, I'm the Todd Hartley. You just type in Todd Hartley on LinkedIn and Facebook, you'll find me.
Okay.
The best looking one out there, I know, because I've looked.
Dude, thank you so much, brother. I really appreciate you being on the show. It's been a great conversation. I think it's going to be extremely fruitful for those of you business people who are actually going to move yourself from a late or mid adopter to an early adopter. You need to go and read this book or get the audiobook. My wife actually got it, and she said that I will say, I read the book. I'm a visual guy. I love reading books. I love making notes. I love highlighting, and that's kind of my jam. But my wife had said, like, there's a lot of extra conversation in the audiobook. You kind of go off script a little bit, which is, she said, super valuable. And I'm just going to reiterate one of the comments that you made that I wrote down, which is, no one will innovate your business for you guys. So, get up, get going, take some action, and jump on. And I think too, support Todd. Like, he's doing great things. He's, obviously you're making money, and you should make money, and you're doing it helping people. And so what a better way? And guys, take advantage of the help. You don't have to, invent this stuff on your own. So, Todd, I really, really, really appreciate you taking the time. I know you've got a tight schedule, and we went overboard here, but I feel blessed. I'm super grateful. Thank you very much for being here, brother.
It is my pleasure. Thank you for your time. It's been a blast talking about this, and I look forward to our next conversation.
Okay, buddy. We'll connect. It's good chatting with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Okay. Cheers, brother.